Welcome back to Peek into COS. This episode is brought to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast at The Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. Today, I'm joined by my friend Kent Sturman, the director of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. Kent, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 12 years you've been the director, right? At the
Yes.
At the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. I'm just curious, like, how does somebody get into this? Like, what was your passion that first got you on the rodeo circuit and how you wound up in Colorado Springs? Let's talk about Kent.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised on a ranch in Wyoming and grew up with rodeo and agriculture activities my whole life. Prior to coming to the Hall of Fame, I was the executive director for the National High School Rodeo Association, located in Denver. And I was there for 22 years. And when this opportunity came up, I never really thought I would ever be the director of a museum, but it was still within the rodeo industry and Western heritage, and that was important to me. So sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I was well connected with the PRCA through my high school rodeo career, and was just hired to be the director of the museum, and it was an easy choice to get to Colorado Springs, and here
so
I
you
am.
went from Wyoming, did you go directly to Denver?
Yes. When I first started with high school rodeo, their offices were actually in Douglas, Wyoming.
Okay.
And just a few months after I started there, they voted to move the office to Denver just to be in a bigger area, closer to a major airport and that kind of thing. And so I made the move with them.
I'm guessing that with 22 years in high school rodeos and now pro rodeo, have you watched somebody go from high school rodeo that is now in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah, several. Several.
How cool is that? I mean, you've watched
it is.
careers.
I feel like they're my kids, you know,
sure.
and it's fun to sit at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas every year and go down the list of names of the contestants, and they all came up through the ranks of high school and college rodeo, and so it's a real. Gives me a sense of pride. And
I love that. That's great. Well, here in the Pikes Peak region, we talk a lot about our outdoor recreation, and we talk about arts and culture. But listeners to this might not know that Colorado Springs has an incredible history with Western American culture. And so let's talk a little bit about that and what it means to have the Pro Rodeo here in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I think just the whole history of how the West was settled and this area was came to being, through the Western heritage and the ranching and the cowboys coming west and what a beautiful place to stop and say, here's a good place to settle.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a rich history here, and then of course with the Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo, been here many years, and with their ties to the community, I think it just made sense that Pro Rodeo settled here as well.
Was it established here, or was the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame somewhere else?
The Hall of Fame was built here.
Okay.
And when the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association decided they wanted to build a museum and a Hall of Fame, their offices were located in Denver.
Oh, interesting.
Just really across the street from the old Mile High Stadium.
Wow.
So,
okay.
And when they decided they wanted to build a museum, they quickly learned that land in and around Denver was quite pricey and a little out of their price range. And somehow the city of Colorado Springs heard that they were looking for land to build a museum and worked with them to acquire the property that we currently sit on at a really, really good price. And so they made the decision to build the museum and national headquarters here in Colorado Springs and move from Denver.
So when I think about that story, though they looked at Denver, Colorado Springs became more of a natural, and it's great that it's in the state of Colorado and all those good things. What would you say the role of the Hall of Fame is in preserving that Western heritage for Colorado Springs? What role does the museum play?
Plays a really important role. Like any museum, our mission is to preserve the history and tell the stories of our past and present, and kind of inspire people for the future. And so I think just with the deep roots that rodeo has in Colorado and specifically Colorado Springs, it's an important piece of that story. And Colorado has a unique claim to fame that many major rodeo associations are headquartered in the state of Colorado, with 3 of those being right here in Colorado Springs. Okay. Not only is the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association in the Hall of Fame here, but the Women's Pro Rodeo Association is here, and the National Little Britches Rodeo.
Okay.
And then you have National High School in Denver, you have the PBR in Pueblo, you have the Bill Pickett Rodeo, which is the African American Association in Denver. So almost every major rodeo association has ties to Colorado.
Wow, that's great. I mean, I truly didn't know that. Now, although the women are right across the street from us, so we do know the professional women for sure. For someone who's listening to this podcast who has either, let's say they've never been to the museum or the Hall of Fame, describe a little bit about what the experience is like for families, for seniors, anybody who comes. Let them kind of paint the picture, Kent, as to what it's like.
Okay. Well, it's like any museum, we have a lot of exhibits and displays. Being a Hall of Fame, most of those exhibits are telling the story or are featuring our Hall of Fame inductees. Mm-hmm. So those exhibits don't change much. So they're kind of static, and that makes up the majority of our space. We do have what we call Heritage Hall on the second floor of the museum, which really tells the story of the sport of rodeo and how it all started, and features the equipment and the clothing and the items used in the sport and how those have evolved over the course of the years. So that's kind of our Heritage Hall, telling the story. And then we have a kids area with a little champions arena with little roping toys and different things that the little kids can get involved and pretend to be cowboy. I think every little boy and girl, growing up, we all played cowboy.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's a natural. And then kind of something that's really unique to us that you don't see at a lot of other museums is in the summer we have live animals as part of our exhibit. We have the arena and the barn out back behind the Hall of Fame and where we put on events there, but we bring in retired rodeo animals and feature them in our barn. That's a part of the museum experience, that the guests get to go out and visit the animals and learn about the animals used in rodeo. In most of the events in rodeo, the animal makes up half the score or time.
Right, okay.
And so it's important to have a good animal athlete as well as a human athlete. So we honor those as well, and we induct animals into our Hall of Fame as well.
Wow. How many? Do you know how many animals you have in?
I think we're up to about 24.
Wow.
I think. Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Well, we're recording this in 2024, and it's been your 45th anniversary.
Yes.
Let listeners know a little bit about some of the special things you did this year to commemorate your 45th anniversary.
Okay. Well, we officially, our birthday is August 6th. That's when we opened the doors in 1979. So this year we for some reason thought it would be a good idea to celebrate for 9 days. So we which wanted to do something different than we did for the 40th and the 35th. So we started the week off on a Friday, August 6th, with the Rodeo Clown Reunion. that you might be familiar with.
Let's talk about the Rodeo Clown Reunion.
We had 42 retired and current rodeo clowns that came to Colorado Springs, and we featured them at the Hall of Fame on that Friday. And they brought out some of their old clown acts that they used to do years ago and performed those in the arena. They did some stuff with the kids. We just had a great day of celebrating the rodeo clown, which is an important part of the rodeo as well.
Experience, yeah.
And then for that weekend, the clowns went up to the Douglas County Fair and PRCA Rodeo in Castle Rock and helped with the rodeo up there and the kids' activities. And then that Monday through Friday of the next week, to honor our anniversary, we just did several activities throughout the day. We had some demonstrations and some guests come in and do speaking engagements and talk about the different aspects of rodeo. And then throughout the week, we also did kind of a rodeo film festival where we showed some of the documentary films that have been produced in and around the sport of rodeo and different contestants. Casey Tibbs, who is our iconic cowboy there at the Hall of Fame and is featured in the big statue out front. Right. We showed his film so we did that all week. And then on that Saturday, August 10th, we did a big open house, free day at the museum, a lot of kids activities, family activities, food trucks. We had the Pikes Peak Rangerettes in our drill team in our arena, and just did a full day of activities. And then that evening, we put on a mini rodeo in our arena for the museum guests. And throughout that whole day, we had just under 700 people attend the museum, which is a huge day for us.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. I think it's, for people that work with Visit Colorado Springs that go to our website, one of the things that they're looking for are itineraries. They're looking for things to do. And so it's easy for us from an outdoor recreation standpoint to point people to Garden of the Gods and Pikes Peak and all the things that we know about. But we do have some unique museums. We have some unique arts and culture sorts of things here. And what would you say to somebody who is into the Western culture, if you will, out here? What are some other things that people can do here besides go to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame that that people enjoy doing?
Sure. Well, the Ghost Town Museum that's definitely a Old West feel and a lot of history there. Even the mining museum, that mining is a deep history in the West and in how the different areas were settled, especially the mountainous areas.
Sure.
And then, of course, if they come in July, they're going to want to go to the Pikes Peak or Bus Rodeo for sure.
At North Penrose.
And now we have the NFR Open in conjunction with that, which is a huge win for Colorado Springs to get that event, because that's like the second biggest rodeo in our association, second to the National Finals Rodeo, which is, a major
and it's a qualifier,
event.
Right?
And it's a qualifier, yeah. So you're going to see some of the best rodeo cowboys there and the best competition. So, but just there's just a lot of any of the museums in the area have the Pioneers Museum obviously has a lot of rich history of this area and the western part of the U.S.
Yeah, and for those who like museums in general, we're obviously the Olympic and Paralympic Museum for us has become putting us on the map from an Olympic City, USA standpoint. It's a place that people enjoy going and learning. They think back on the Olympics and they think about memories that they have. So I'm curious at the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, when you get a chance or your staff gets a chance to interact with visitors, what are some of the things that they tell you is so special about going to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame?
I think the guests that maybe have never been to a rodeo and just come in for sheer curiosity and they don't know anything about it and they want to learn, they're really impressed with the story of how the sport evolved and how it got started and then if you have the real diehard rodeo fan who knows a lot or knows the stories of a lot of the inductees, we get a lot of people in that are just looking for their one hero that they have looked up to or were a big fan of throughout their career. Like probably one of the most well-known inductee that people always ask about is, where do we see Lane Frost?
Okay, sure.
And he had such a incredible story and then was killed so tragically, but yet he still is, even though that was 35 years ago, he's still a very popular figure. And so I think they get to see their heroes up close.
Can you tell us like a Lane Frost story that, like the legend? What is one thing that he might really be known or remembered for?
The one thing, and if you've seen the movie 8 Seconds or anything, learned anything about Lane, and his parents talk about this a lot too, is he always had time for the fans, especially the children, the young kids. He would take time after every rodeo to sign autographs and to talk to the kids and get pictures made with them. And he really reached out to that younger generation and was always approachable.
That's great. My first impression of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame when I first went were the belt buckles. I've never seen anything, a collection quite like the belt buckles. I mean, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean it's a traditional piece of hardware for the cowboy to wear, and so. In most cases, when a cowboy wins a rodeo, that's what he's going to win, is a belt buckle. So, and it's really fun to see the evolution of the belt buckle and how it's changed over the years. From, way back in the 30s and 40s, they weren't much bigger than your wallet, and now they're larger and they're real ornate, and the silver work is just tremendous. They're beautiful pieces of art, as well as a big piece of their attire. So
sure,
they're just gorgeous. Yeah.
There's probably somebody listening to this who's a young person who might be trying to figure out in life what it is they want to do. And with your background in high school, rodeo, and everything else, what advice would you give to a young person who's looking at a rodeo career?
Just learn from some of the champions. A lot of the rodeo cowboys, after they retire from competition or even before they retire, they'll put on schools and clinics for the younger generation.
Okay.
But I think there's so much involved with it that you want to know what you're doing and learn from the best so that you minimize your injuries. It is a sport. You need to be in good shape, so you need to, your physical training is as important as your mental and learning the event. So I think just learning from as many different cowboys as you can and take the proper steps to, you don't just go show up at a rodeo and jump on a bull the first time without really knowing what you're doing and getting that education and training from the professionals. In
our country, you take football, which is probably one of the most physical sports that people watch, in mass. Is there a harder, more physical sport than pro rodeo on your body?
I don't think so.
I can't imagine. Yeah. I mean, I see cowboys walking through airports, and there is just like because they've got their hats on, they got their shirts on. It's a team, if you will, and you have to just salute them for what they go through physically to and there's certainly a career to be made, but oh my gosh, the price that a rodeo cowboy pays is a hard one.
Yeah, and they are true athletes. I mean, and a lot of rodeo cowboys were also excelled in football and wrestling and other sports throughout high school or college, and and they physically train and get in shape, and it's a rigorous sport.
Did you have injuries yourself, like when you were at rodeo?
I didn't compete real heavily.
Okay.
We were very involved in 4-H and FFA, and just kind of competed in rodeo locally around home. We didn't get too involved in and go up through the professional ranks.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely know what it takes to do that.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we wrap, I want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, which is the Discovery Map of Colorado Springs. Do you own a business in Colorado Springs and want more visitor and resident exposure in 2025? Get it listed on Discovery Map Colorado Springs, a popular and free visitor map that is distributed to more than 170 locations throughout Colorado Springs and beyond. Join advertisers like Kent, like the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, and get your business prominently featured on the map. Just reach out to Discovery Map Colorado Springs today at www.discoverymap.com/Colorado Springs, Colorado, or find a member page on visitcos.com. All right, so Kent, we like to wrap up with a few questions that will get you thinking. And you've been here 12 years, so some of these you should be able to do pretty easily. In just 3 words, how would you describe Colorado Springs?
3 words.
Yes.
Beautiful, welcoming, and diverse.
Diverse. Okay. Welcoming. Great. That's we've heard those before. Those are super. Do you have a favorite hidden gem anywhere here in the Pikes Peak region that you like to go and just get away?
The top of Pikes Peak.
The top of Pikes
Yeah,
Peak.
I mean, I've been up there several times, and the views are just spectacular. And no wonder she was inspired to write this song, "America the Beautiful." But and I've gone up different ways. I've driven up. I've gone up the COG, and then a few years ago, I went up on one of the days when they open it real early, and you get to go up and watch the sunrise from the top.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It's just the once in a lifetime. If you have to do it at least once in your life.
Yeah,
it's
agreed.
Just spectacular.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed. So everybody listening, if you don't have the top of Pikes Peak on your itinerary, Kent tells you, don't miss it.
Yeah.
Don't
and
miss
then
it.
when you come back down, go to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
And come to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. That's right. So, is there still something on your bucket list that you have not done here in the region?
Yes, and I drove by it this morning getting here. I have never been to the Olympic Training Center.
The Olympic Training Center,
I have to do that.
Yeah. Well, and it's great that it's now reopened and people have full access to it, because during the pandemic, to protect the athletes, it was closed down.
Sure.
But you're right. It is it's a place that a lot of people will put a day together where they will go to the Olympic Training Center and they'll also go to the Olympic Museum. Mm-hmm. And so if you want a full day of past, present, and future, that is a great ticket to
It is.
to do.
I've been to the museum a few times,
Sure.
but I've never been to the training center.
All right,
so I will do that.
It's on the record, Kent, that you need to go do that. So, all right. So, in wrapping it up, tell listeners where they can get all the information they need about planning their visit to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Probably the best is just go to our website, ProRodeoHallOfFame.com. You can buy tickets online, or you don't have to wait till you get there. All our hours of operation, all of our activities, the events coming up are all on the website, and that.
And you're already starting plans for your 50th.
Yes.
If you did 9 days for your 45th, imagine how long your 50th will be.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know.
We'll have to get going on that, though, because that'll be a big deal.
Yeah. So for all of you who are planning your trips, or if you live here, and there are people who probably are residents that have not been to the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, tell people where you're physically located.
Okay, we're off of I-25 at Rock Rimmon, exit 148. and it's 101 Pro Rodeo Drive.
Yep, you can
And,
see it.
You can't miss the big statue out front. And,
Yeah.
and we hear that all the time. People, oh, I've lived here my whole life and haven't been. And so come see us. We also do monthly kids programs for if you want to get your kids involved in a little educational activity. We got something for everybody.
That's great. Well, Kent, thanks for your time in joining us, and I hope we've educated listeners to make sure that the Western heritage of Colorado and the West is preserved and alive and well at the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. So
Yes, certainly.
thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.